I did want to tell you that clearance rates were significantly related to location type. Non-MSA counties have a higher rate of clearance than small towns, which in turn had a higher rate of clearance than the big cities. The non-MSA counties cleared 42 or 43% of their sexual assaults versus 34% for cities. Also, I want to tell you, and it's not in the table, non-SMA counties took less time to clear cases than small towns and big cities. Now, with respect to that relationship is not significant. The other relationship, the actual rate of clearance was for that relation. Okay, now we turn to table 3, which includes everything. Basically, what I have here is 4 Cox regressions. 1 for all locations. I'll get back to that later. I'll discuss that later. Cities 500,000 and over, 1 for cities 25,000 and under, and then the non-MSA counties. Now, why was I interested in time to clearance and doing Cox regression? Well, NIBR's data is really right-censored. The cases are not really followed up for the same period of time. So if I'm using 2008 data, a case that occurs on January 1, 2008 is actually tracked for the purpose of arrests and clearances through December 31st of 2009. So that's a 730-day period. A case that occurs at the end of the year, December 31st, is only tracked until December 31st, 2009. And so that's a 365-day window. So it's really interesting and pretty important to take into account that they have different times to clearance. And that's why I use Cox regression. Now, okay, real quickly, when we compare across the columns between cities, small towns, and rural areas, you can see that clearance in a big city is more predictable, much more predictable. You have more factors showing statistical significance, and in particular, my variable of greatest interest, victim-offender relationship. Big cities are 2 2/3, or let me put it this way because it's Cox regression. Sexual assaults where intimates or ex-intimates are accused have a hazard rate of being cleared by arrest that's 2 2/3 times greater than those not involving intimates and ex-intimates. We compare across the columns. These relations are not significant in cities, small towns, and in rural areas. Then also note, as you go to the small town, this is a small city in an urban area is what it is. There are still, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 predictors that were significant. And then when you get to the rural areas, there's just 2. And this is really kind of mind-blowing that use of a gun or knife is not, does not help to explain a clearance rate in a rural area. The offender acted with a gun or knife. Actually, maybe that's not surprising, but anyway, we have it here in paper. And also, what I find very surprising is, the variable that is significant is co-occurring crime. So it's as if the police are saying, okay, a co-occurring crime means that the offender committed another crime in addition to the rape, so there might have been a burglary, theft, a kidnapping, and so on. It's as if the police are saying, okay, we know this guy's already a criminal. We've confirmed he really is, he's a real criminal, and therefore will go along with the sexual assault charge as well. That's kind of what I get out of that. Now with the minor injuries being significant but not major with respect to the last 2, the small towns and rural counties, my sense is if there were serious major injuries, the case is probably being processed as other than sexual assault, because I can't explain, it's being referred as other than sexual assault, because I can't really explain that finding. Now, just wrapping up, the study finds mixed support for claims about small towns and rural areas. Accused rapists who are intimates or ex-intimates receive more favorable treatment by police in rural areas and small towns, while the police in small cities and rural areas are more expedient. They employ greater discretion in decision-making. That's why we're not seeing the predictability. And the research illustrates an irony in the use of NIBR's data. generally people use NIBRS data, say, oh yeah, it's a great data set for small places, and it's a great data set for, you know, places with 100,000 people. But go back to this first set of columns here, and what you see is, to the extent NIBRS does look at big cities, it's dominating the findings when you aggregate. And then on a final note, future studies of rural areas really benefit from measures of land use and as control variables. It's really interesting that, you know, rural areas were so good at catching strangers. You know, it makes you wonder, are these innocent strangers? Or were the strangers, you know, did they really do a better job of clearing or arresting guilty strangers? And, you know, there's all kinds of things that could be happening in a rural area, like ecotourism, where, you know, there's a lot of people from the outside coming in, and it really is more populated. And so, anyway, my time is up. And I